Hi, everyone. Welcome to the celebration of Ruthie Drake. I'm Stevie Drake to most of you, all family members, Stevie Drake, but since we're all family tonight, call me Stevie, right? Margot, my wife, is helping me. Gretchen Bustrum, Ruthie's granddaughter, Heidi's daughter, is also going to be helping, and my daughter Ellie is helping. I know I'm going to get through this. So I'm going to be reading a lot tonight, just because speaking from the heart tonight will be kind of hard. So bear with me. We'll see some photos. You'll hear some amazing stories and letters from friends, and just sit back and relax, and let's have an amazing celebration of Ruthie. Hello and welcome. I'm confident that Ruthie is here with us tonight. Based on all the images that I've seen in our Facebook group, I feel her love and spirit, and that's because of all of you. This event is the very, very best I can do to bring my mom's spirit alive so we never, ever forget her. We're streaming live into a private Facebook group that nobody outside the group can see. The comments that you make are live as well. So please be interactive and tell us what you're feeling about the words you hear and the pictures that you're seeing. I want everything to be perfect, but I know we'll have some stumbles along the way or some technical problems. Just bear with us. It will be great. When I was young and had sleepovers with my friends, pizza, Ruthie would get all the food set out, and then she'd quickly sneak in a prayer with all my friends, leaving me standing there, shaking it off, and then telling my friends, it's okay to eat, go ahead. So right here, I'm going to sneak in a prayer. It's what she would want. Dear Heavenly Father, please send our love to Ruthie. Please connect her with her loved ones who you are already caring for. Keep her smiling, moving quickly, and most of all, laughing. Also, God, please shine your love on all who have joined us for this event celebrating our girl Ruthie. Care for them and watch over them like the awesome dad you are. As always, in your name we pray. Amen. Ruth made me promise that I would never have a funeral for her. And she didn't like memorials because they were no fun. Actually, when she was naughty to me at least, I told her that when she died, I was going to prop her up with no hair and makeup in an open casket funeral in Greenville, Michigan. She got my point, and she would fall back in line and be sweet to me again. I feel like this celebration honors her wishes and still lets us say goodbye properly. On that point, I envision this celebration being a big party to celebrate her birthday, but I've changed my mind. There will be tears, and I want that. I never want anyone to hurt, but in this case, I want you to just a little bit. You see, our brains tag most of our most vivid memories as important when they're associated with a strong emotion. So think about all the big memories you have, and I'm telling you, there's going to be some sort of emotion attached to it. So my grand scheme is that you think about all the ways that you remember Ruthie, and we together have a heavy chest and a tear, and her memory is locked in our hearts forever, and she will live forever in your thoughts. And I hope from time to time you share those memories with others. Whatever the memory is, keep her alive. I want to thank Connie Van Horn, who used to be Connie Haupt, Ruthie's very best friend living in California, for helping me with some of the details of Ruthie's biography. Here we go. Ruth Ann Nelson was born November 7th, this very day, in 1938 in Greenville, Michigan. She was the baby in the family, born to Harry and Rachel Nelson, both of strong Scandinavian heritage. Grandpa Ray was Norwegian and Grandpa Harry was Danish. Her siblings in order of birth are Sister Jean, Brother Daryl, and Sister Hope. They all shared a very tight bond that lasted forever. She grew up on Franklin Street, only 2 blocks from the high school. She had a black cat named Inky and a beagle named Trinky. As far as we can remember, Trinky is correct. She attended kindergarten through high school in Greenville Public Schools, and she had the quintessential late 1950s teenage life that revolved around church, school, boys, and mostly her 8 very best friends in the world, her best girls, or BGs, and more on that later. She graduated from high school in 1956. That fall, she started as a freshman at Dana College, a Danish heritage Christian school in near Blair, Nebraska. While cleaning things up, I actually found an old envelope that was addressed to Ruthie Nelson while at Dana from a boy named Steve Drake coming from a Texas address. And Ruthie had a crush on Steve in high school. He was 1 year older. More on that later, too. She didn't love Dana being so far away from all her friends, so after only 1 year, she transferred to Michigan State College and graduated with an elementary educating teaching degree. She married her high school sweetheart, Steve Drake, in 1960, so that must have been a good letter that I found. She was a teacher in Grand Rapids at Leonard Street Elementary School, while Steve worked in his family's plastics business. They ended up back in Greenville, and Steve and Ruth Ann became the parents of Heidi, Sarah, Molly, and Stevie. They lived first on High Street, and then they moved to a special little house on a big hill that was set between 2 lakes where they raised their 4 children. In 1983, a fire destroyed their house. They lost their photos and things and pets, but everyone was safe, and they rebuilt a new house in the very same spot. During this time, Ruthie worked in a dental office for Dr. Harold Steele. She loved the responsibility and independence it provided since her babies were all growing up and heading off to college. On vacations, they grew fond of the Florida Keys and finally bought a little house on the water that became their special place to go. Ruthie loved this little place in the sun. Children married, grandbabies were born, and times were relatively good. Steve, Ruthie, and the whole family were rocked in 1989 when Sarah died after giving birth to her son, Matthew. Thankfully, baby Matthew was healthy and perfect, but poor Sarah suffered from a rare circumstance, and we lost her. Ruthie was never the same after that, but she continued to be a strong spirit for those around her. Her faith grew stronger, and as a couple, they grew closer together in their grief. They bought a log house on Lake Michigan in Onekama, which is still lovingly used by family members. Steve passed away in 1998 after a long illness. Ruthie grew stronger after taking care of herself and started a new chapter in her life. She traveled all over the world, met new groups of friends, and in doing so was introduced to a man named Jay Built This, who lived in Holland, Michigan. He was sweet and made Ruthie laugh, which was a gift. They married and had 9 great years together until Jay passed away also. Ruthie found her next companion in Maury Dutzman, who she knew from her Little Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Key Largo. Before the COVID epidemic, Maury and Ruthie said goodbye to each other because with his poor health, she could no longer take care of him physically because she was suffering from some poor health too. He has since passed away, and Ruthie was living alone since 2019. And she thrived by working on her own health, caring for a kitten and puppy that she adopted, and she spent her days loving her animals, walking, reading her beloved books, and talking to Connie in California. She was in Key Largo when she passed away, where everything she needed was close by. Her church, her grocery store, sunsets, and the Salvation Army. She peacefully died on Thursday, September 16th. She is 83 years old today. Now, back to the BGs. Ruthie as a friend, as a BG. My mom lived a life that by design was low key. She didn't search out spotlight, but when it hit her, she did love it. She had remarkable moments, but there was one part of her life that was truly extraordinary and could literally be a Hollywood movie. Now I'm getting back to those BGs. A lasting friendship is a wonderful thing. And in my world, having one or maybe two very best friends, you're lucky. This group of 9 girls met each other in kindergarten, and it lasts to this day. Their friendship was simple and pure, plenty of teenage angst, but nothing like kids deal with nowadays. No Instagram. They passed notes in school and focused on having face-to-face fun. They were incredibly tight through elementary school, and given a little more freedom in junior high and high school, they were inseparable. They even stayed close as they all went off to college, moved all over the country, married, had babies, and raised their families. And I can attest that when they got together for reunions, they were all back in high school, laughing, talking, and literally moving like young girls. Those girls were Ruthie Nelson, Janet Wilson, Connie Metzger, Connie Hauk, Sally Leonard, Susan Brace, Sharon Taylor, Jackie Bradley, and Kay Johnson. Being a friend to Ruthie meant you received written notes of love and support. You always received a gift when you were reunited that may or may not be from a thrift store. The only thing Ruthie needed to do was to make you laugh and feel comfortable. Beyond that, just being together was enough. The Bee Gees have already said goodbye to Connie Metzger, Sally Leonard, Kay Johnson, and now Ruthie. I want you all to know that I'm so thankful that you all had each other for a lifetime, whatever God says that is. The most solid and most long-lasting thing that was in Ruthie's life was her Bee Gees. And I think that might be the same for you. You have by no means lost a friend. She's just unavailable for now. Stay strong and do all your BG things forever. I have 2 letters to read from 2 special BGs from Connie Howe. This is Ruthie's special friend from California. And you guys, I've been reading these and I have struggled to get through these. So I've got my daughter Ellie queued up that if I fail at reading it, she's going to step in for me. From Connie, my very best memory of Ruthie was in 1945 when we would load our dolls into buggies and travel 1 block over to Main Street and stroll down to the butcher shop so I could buy a kidney, which my mom would chop up and cook for my cat. At that time, no one worried about us being young and alone on the streets of Greenville. It was such a fun and carefree time and very special memory. Another cherished memory took place during the summer break from college. So this would be summer break from Michigan State. We were camp counselors at Camp Sacagawea, a Girl Scout camp in Traverse City. I was dating Norm, and she was about to be married to Steve. We had weekends off, so we would borrow a car and drive into Traverse City. She always looked forward to buying 1 or 2 wooden dance silverware, hoping she would have enough when she and Steve got married. We would spend the day shopping in Traverse City, then sleep in the car on the beach with a pop bottle to pee in if we needed to get up in the middle of the night. We felt safer that way, but I don't think we ever thought to lock the doors of the car. I love to relive that time in my mind. The final cherished memory takes place the last time we were together. And here comes the tears. It was maybe 3 years ago when I stayed with her in Onekama. One beautiful fall day, we decided to pack Coco in the car and drive up to Glen Arbor. We stopped along the way at every thrift store and every garage sale. The fall color was amazing and the weather and the whole day was just perfect. I remember feeling such contentment being with my best friend, not knowing that it would be my final in-person time with her. Daily phone calls were special, but actually being with someone is the best. I miss you, my dearest friend. I love you, Connie. And now a letter from Susan Lovell, Susan Brace, as she was as an OG BG. That's kind of funny. Dearest Ruther, We didn't sit next to each other in Miss Bauer's kindergarten class because I was the brace and in the front row, and you were a Nelson sitting in the back with all the fun kids like Linda O'Connor. But we must have connected at recess, as you were my first dearest friend as a 5-year-old, and every memory I have growing up includes you. Walking to school with you and Linda and Sally through the marsh from 2nd to 4th grades, where we caught up with Connie and Jackie and Janet and later Sharon. Liking boys together in junior high, spending every Saturday hanging out at Owen's drugstore downtown and annoying store clerks in the stores. Dropping water balloons off the bank roof, you were always game to do naughty things with me. You were in my dad's office when he'd opened a letter I'd written my mother in California about how awful Paige, his new wife, and he were being to me. So he told me to move to California. And all you remembered him saying was, I love you. You were my traveling girl, getting us to Cleveland to see Kay, Toledo to see Linda Case, and best of all, in 1954, you went with me on a train from Chicago to San Bernardino to spend 2 weeks with my mother. We went to Disneyland that summer when it opened, and our trip to Mount Palomar to see the telescope wasn't as fun. Mother's brakes gave out on a curvy mountain road, and we crashed on top of avocado trees, totaling the car and losing our sandals in the impact. You were in my wedding, and I liked my rehearsal dinner dress so well, you used it as your bridesmaids' dresses, probably so I wouldn't have to buy another dress. That would be like you. You and Connie came to our first apartment in Detroit, and baby Heidi interrupted all of our hysterical giggles. We raised our children together, including Becky's and Sarah's getting caught burglarizing the makeup counter at Meijer, true story. And Julie and Molly, Randy and Stevie were more cousins than friends. The worst day of my life when Jean called about Sarah, Becky, Randy, and I, in less than an hour, were in the car heading to Boston. I had to get my arms around you and weep together. The same 3-year-old Sarah, who stayed with us when you and Steve went to Florida, walked in on me getting dressed, and in her perky little voice said, Hey, Aunt Susan, you got a funny fuzzy bottom, just like my mom. Nothing else changed for us. Oh, Susie, I love you. How many times you made me feel so good saying that. You laughed hard at anything funny I said. You were generous beyond words. My gold earrings, 2 bathing suits, a Lilly jacket. There was nothing you would not do or give to people you loved, and I would have for you. I always knew how much I loved you, Ruth Ann, but I had no idea how much it would break my heart when you died. Your laugh will always be with me, but how can I get along without your cute little ski jump nose and brown eyes like mine? I cried for days after Connie called, but then one Sunday in church, something happened. We were sitting in the back pews, so I didn't have to talk to anyone as I was crying suddenly, and I as suddenly as I felt or saw or understood a vision. You were with Sarah. Steve too, but I was realizing you and Sarah were together. Finally, I stopped crying. And someday I'm coming too. You made my life better, and that's the best any friend can do. I will always love you, Susan. I have to look at my agenda. I think Margot is up next. Yes? Yes. I will unmute you. I am so sorry. Thank you.
Just tell me when I'm unmuted because I can't see anything.
And you are on.
I'm on? Okay.
Yes.
I get to talk about Ruthie's style, both her personal style and her design style. It's incredible, and I'm so excited to share it with you. But first, I want to say this. Ruthie, thank you for giving me my incredible husband. We were doing so well, weren't we? And without you, giving me Stevie, as you call him. We would not have our three amazing kids, Stevie, Ellie, and Teddy. Ruthie, you're integral in giving me my family. That's everything to me, and I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you for that. I am forever grateful. So that is the hard part. Now I get to do the fun part. Words that describe Ruthie's style. And I only have 5 minutes. So if you know Ruthie, of course you're in here because you do, you know she just had incredible style, everything that she did. Words that describe her style are fun, happy, playful, light, bright, whimsical, funny, pink, preppy, Scandinavian, Danish, sunshine, found, treasures, handmade, cute, charming, homey, colorful, sweet, sunsets, water, cozy, fires, and lots of photos, books, and animals. So I want to take a minute and talk about her personal style. First of all, khaki shorts. She must have had 100 pairs. And a crisp white shirt, or a gingham shirt, or a fishing shirt, or any cute, bright, colorful shirt. Or also a tight turtleneck, as you can see over to the right. And always gold hoops. And I hear that she gave earrings to Susan as well. So she gave me these hoops for my college graduation. I still have them. She called them my underwear. I was so confused when I opened them, and she said, they're your underwear. And the reason why she calls gold hoops underwear is because you wear them every day, just like underwear. We cannot talk about Ruthie's style without talking about her Lilly dresses. Steve tried to teach her how to shop for Lilly dresses on eBay. I don't think that ever happened. Steve did the shopping for her when he would send her screenshots of the pictures and she would pick them out. She loved her Lilly dresses. And she would get so excited when they finally arrived, of course, because they were not full price, they were discounted. And she always loved a good treasure and a good find, whether it was at the Pink Juntique or, as stated before, the Salvation Army. Belts. She had her Keys fishing belt, or if you can see over there on the right, she has her, gosh, how do you explain it? The Swiss belt that is a nod to the Swiss cowbell straps, of which she had a lot of those around her house as well, the actual cowbells. But she always had this perfect look to her all the time, and she definitely had a uniform that she wore all the way down to her shoes. She had lots and lots of shoes, and her feet were so tiny, she always got great deals on them. Steve bought her Vans. Most recently, he got her into Vans, and you guys will appreciate this story about her. Let's see. And it would always take multiple tries to get the color right. They finally did it, but at first, she didn't like the lavender ones. Those went back. And then there were the wrong pink ones. Those also went back. And then there were the vomit yellow ones that were actually the same color as the pants. I don't know if you can see my pants that I am wearing. I was wearing the exact same color vomit pants the day she got her shoes, and they were not the right color. However, he finally did get her bright sunshine yellow ones that she wanted, and those were a hit. So I thought that was kind of funny. And so Ruthie. Jack Rogers sandals, must, head to toe. If we're talking head to toe, Jack Rogers sandals. She was a collector of these, and for those that knew her the best, you will love the fact that the chartreuse ones in the very back of that picture are actually 2 right feet. My only guess is that maybe she found them one at a time, the treasure at Salvation Army or something, And I have no idea how she wore them or if she just liked looking at them in her closet. And then, of course, the Nantucket purse in the bottom, her iconic style. If we're talking about her homes, she had beautiful homes, both northern exposure in Onekama and southern exposure in Key Largo. Words that describe her homes are sea glass, fires, candles, books, photos, flowers, sunset, happy, cozy textures, collections, treasures, layers and layers and layers of things. And always surprises. You'll always find surprises, whether it's something tucked into one of those books or a picture tucked into the side of a frame or something hanging on a hook in a random place or hanging from the knob of a light, like inside the lamp. You could find a treasure hanging in there. There were also the cute, silly, and funny things that Ruthie liked to put around her house. So thank you to whoever added those bras. I didn't have a picture of those triple D bras that she would hang on the back of the guest bathroom, but she had funny photos, funny paintings, images, the cute chandelier in Key Largo, cute lamps. She had her dance. She had her Mary Hadley. And she just definitely had this unbelievable style that when you really look at it was quite brilliant. And we all had the honor of absorbing that over the years. And the most important thing as we grow old and raise our families is legacy. And I love the fact that the legacy Ruthie left on our kids of her iconic style. Eddie, who loved to sit and be cozy with Bubby and just talk, the only thing she wanted from Bubby were 2 teacups so she could remember her grandma. Ellie, who shared Bubby's passion for reading. Bubby was a voracious reader. She just wanted a collection of her books. So you can see Teddy's little teacups on the left and Ellie receiving her books up on the right. And Stevie, who absolutely loved fishing on the boat with Bubby during the day, and then shark fishing at her place at night, he wanted just one of her vintage fishing books. And so the legacy, and he also shares Bubby's love for houseplants too. I didn't have a picture of that, but she rubbed off on us in so many ways, from flowers to candles, just to how we live. So I want to leave you with this. This is a little tray that I found in Ruthie's bathroom, and it says, "With freedom, books, flowers, and the moon, who could not be happy?" Oscar Wilde.
Uncle Stevie, I think you're muted.
I'm muted. Told you something would go wrong.
Hey.
I had so many people say interesting things about Ruthie's style, and it took me until I was an adult really to understand what it was really like. It was truly amazing, and she had a gift, and that was part of what she loved, just messing around with her houses, and she always loved them. Thank you so much, sweetheart. That was awesome. So you guys, we're going to hand this over to Gretchen, who is going to say something about her grandma.
Hello. Okay, so I am Gretchen Bustrum. I have red eyes. Very sorry about that, but everybody's gotten me going already. So I'm Gretchen Bustrum, and one of the most iconic things that hit me, it's not even on my 3 pages of written information, is that I am going to be the Bee Gees legacy. And I'm very sorry to brag to the rest of the family, but my husband and I were introduced through Bee Gees. after generations. So Becky Lovell, who is Susan Lovell, an original BG, she introduced my husband and I. And I didn't even think to write about that, but that is such a huge legacy. I mean, if they wouldn't have met in kindergarten, I'd probably still be single, and Lord knows it was till I was 30 anyways. So thank the Lord, for the Bee Gees coming in hot. Anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to read because I start looking like an alligator, so I apologize about that, but Grandma would laugh. So the saddest part about being all together today is knowing that it just makes it the reality that Grandma, our little Energizer Bunny, is not here today to join us for this celebration. That's the hardest part because she would be the most fun. I mean, she always was. She maybe would only be there for 20 minutes, but she would be so much fun and so energized and talk to everybody during that time. One thing that I realized through these past few weeks is that being the oldest grandchild, things are kind of different and you don't realize how things change. I've seen some different things and been able to experience some things that I wish my cousins would get to do as well. One of them is that I still call her Grandma. She and I talk to my brothers. So I am the only grandchild that still goes between Grandma and Bubby. Bubby was a name that she came up with. I think it was after 1998 because I think it was after Grandpa Steve had passed. But for me, I was in 6th grade and going from calling her Grandma always to all of a sudden Bubby I just flip-flopped. So excuse me if I say Bubby and Grandma. But the one thing that I did get to carry on is that my 2 bonus boys, my grandma fully embraced my instant family, which knowing Grandma, I just didn't know how that was all going to go over originally. And she fully embraced both of my bonus boys, as well as my husband. And I got to see some amazing things. I got to see her be a great grandma and the little things that you remember as a kid, with your grandma. And you're like, oh, maybe she'll do that when she's older. Oh, she got the little treat drawer going again with the orange slices, apple skeever in the morning for my kids, and it was just all those memories I got to relive. And I'm so thankful for. And it's just something that I am forever going to be thankful for, that I got to see that with her. Also, how when you grow up and everybody talks about their grandma and, their grandmas can just be vanilla. I don't know how else to explain that. Vanilla, not chocolate, not spicy, not anything, but my grandma was never the same. My grandma wore the cute dresses. She showed her legs. She wore bright colors. She wore big funky jewelry. She had tattooed eyeliner, she just was never the traditional grandma. And I always loved that she was always authentically herself. And kind of in her own way inspired all of us to continuously be authentically ourselves. Prime example, tonight I was going to wear a button-up shirt, and if anybody knew my grandma, she had like 7 irons in every room. So, because her favorite hobby was like ironing. I don't know. It's not mine, but that's okay. So anyways, so I go to iron my shirt tonight, and legitimately part of my iron rusted inside, and it was only a sign from my grandma going, Gretchen, please don't wear the white Oxford. Wear what you're comfortable in and be your iconic self, So I'm carrying that on tonight because I have rust holes in my one white shirt I had ready for tonight. So growing up, everybody would have these conversations, and my grandma, I would always talk about, she's out on an adventure. Well, I'm growing up. She was in Europe, she'd be out doing her single ladies thing, horseback riding. And she and I would always email and because that was when she was better with email when it first came out. And I was just always so thankful, but she always lived what I called a fast forward lifestyle. She didn't do things slowly. She was quick to the point. We often joked that with Grandma, when she would come to visit, it would be like if you took a bouncy ball and you just chucked it in a room really fast. She'd make sure to see everybody, touch the points. It'd be meaningful. We loved spending time with her, but it was quick and it was to the point and it was sweet, and that was just her style. She always she just came in with such energy. And I think that's something that each of us have all carried on, is some sort of energy. Bubby, you know, she's a spitfire. She was generous, loving, fun, quick-witted, faithful in her love for God. And she also had a slightly naughty side, which I know we've all kind of touched on. I have some stories. But there were traits that I'm thankful that I inherited from her. One of them is, you know, the way we decorate our houses. I got that quirky style. I have a teal front door and just realized 2 days ago that it was from her. And I'm like, I've always loved this color. Why? Well, it's been my whole life. So from that, like, I'm so thankful that I inherited that, decorating her houses. Her sense of humor, you know, I mean, I'm not quite middle school. I'm probably like high school, college, but I do know that her sense of humor was always goofy and funny. And she just wanted to make everybody smile. There are a few traits that I do need to touch on for my family's sake that I apologize for, that I did inherit, and they call them Ruthieisms that I have. So one of them is my organization skills. Grandma and I had a really amazing thing called organized chaos. I think she started that. So she and I share the same organization skills. You know, everything looks cute outside. Don't open a cupboard, please. And then let's move on from there. So we also had the art of cleaning. She and I share. Unfortunately, baseboards were not a high priority for her. Myself either. That's okay, but everything else was gorgeous and put in the places. Energizer Bunny. She and I shared similar energy levels, and I don't know where that goes or how that ever stops. And apparently it doesn't, because she was 83. So anyways, so from there, you know, you'd always look at my grandma and you'd see her in a crisp white Oxford shirt or a Lilly dress, but she had the naughtiest sense of humor. And I think that's what you have to go back to, is just to make people smile every day. And that's what grandma loved doing. So the funniest thing is the oversized bra, she would wear it on her head. I'm not sure if people remember this. She'd come out because she thought it was so funny if you didn't notice it in the guest room, that she'd then wear it on her head. So that happened. I had to explain that to my children, which is very interesting to do as you're getting older. She would also have half-naked dolls, which new generation, now having children, that's different. When you go into a grandmother's house, your grandma is not vanilla. She doesn't wear a sweater and sit in the corner and knit. I mean, she knits and books and does everything at once, but so it's a different story. But you know, just she had these two dolls, and I know Uncle Stevie and Margot and everybody's going to remember these two talking dolls that she bought that are vintage, and there's a man and a woman, and they say like the most world's inappropriate, Uncle Stevie has them. They say the most inappropriate things. So my grandmother used to travel to Onekama and Key Largo because they were great conversation starters. I'm like, Grandma, it's a half-naked doll saying inappropriate things. It's amazing. I will never forget it, and it makes me so happy. And her whole thing is she just wanted to have a good conversation. She just wanted to connect. She just wanted to love and connect with you. One of the things that I think I am the most thankful for is that I had a great growing up. I had a great childhood with my grandma, but being an adult and building an adult relationship with your grandmother is very different. And we had some very honest conversations, and I'm just going to be forever thankful for those moments, for those pictures, for that wisdom, for being in a different time set. I have a couple funny stories. So I'll go with the cute one first. Okay. So the first one is, I don't know, and it's probably just part of being the oldest, and so I'm very lucky to have this, but I remember when Grandpa had a plane, and when Grandpa Steve was alive, he and Grandma, I don't know why my parents let this happen, let me get on a plane with Grandpa flying and Grandma there, and I flew from Greenville to Onekama and stayed for a whole weekend. We did the Nutcracker, we did all these cute things. I don't know how we survived. I think it was amazing, but it's a great memory for me to have. Remember going to the bargain barn with my grandma and everything like that. So one of the things that everybody knows that my grandma had a fond eye for and a beautiful eye for was for beautiful blown glass. Any kind of blown glass. It could be an ornament. It could be sea glass. It could be so many different pieces of glass. She taught me about beach combing. So we would find pieces of sea glass and pick out beautiful art. I've actually handed this down to my son, so he picks out beautiful pieces of art. And I see people giggling, so I kind of have a feeling we know where this story's going. So I used to drive home from Holy Cross Notre Dame my freshman year of college, and I would drive right by Holland. So I'd always stop, not always, but I would stop and see Grandma and Grandpa Jay. So I would stop in, say hi, and Grandma comes running out. Oh my gosh, I just got back from Hawaii. Grandma's so excited. She just bought these beautiful, beautiful, hand-blown, beautiful pieces of glass. 5 for $25, Gretchen. Can you believe it? No, Grandma, I cannot believe it. It's amazing. I'm 18, okay? Like, very young. So I'm like, okay. So being Danish, I'm like, Grandma, I can't wait to see this. She brings me in the house. She comes, shows me this wall. She has all these beautiful 5 pieces of hand-blown glass. And they are hand-blown tobacco pipes. And I am looking at my grandmother going, oh my gosh, you cannot have these in your house. I said, Grandma, you have young, I'm the oldest. You have younger cousins and grandchildren. You cannot have this. She laughed hysterically at me and told me it was hilarious that she had paraphernalia in her household, and that I have written here, I remember her fake hitting a silly, and I was like, oh, you cannot do this. We have younger cousins. You, Grandma, please don't. And trying to rein in your grandmother doesn't always work. But this was my grandmother, and I forever loved her appreciative eye of blown glass and apparently her bong pipe collection that she had, that she thought was hilarious that people would sit and see her paraphernalia in her house. So we still collect beach glass. We don't collect bongs, but that's where we are. So when I lived in South Carolina, this is another story that I have just a couple others, and then I'll get out of your hair. So I went to visit my grandma, and we kept in contact a lot through phone and things like that, because I was in South Carolina and Illinois and all over. So I had college spring break, but it didn't match up with my family. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go see Grandma and spend time with her, because otherwise I see her for a half hour. So let's get the time in. I'd love to see her. So I went down and I said, hey, Grandma, the pool's getting kind of low. Can I help you? You guys, this is the only time my grandmother completely was angry at me and was very angry with me. I was terrified. So I went down to Grandma's and found that I was filling the pool. She was happy about it. She was great. She's like, just don't forget to take the hose out. I have that kind of energy that keeps going like hers. So I forgot about the hose. So right when she comes around the corner, I'm pulling out the hose, trying to act all calm. The pool's to the brim. Like, no, it's cool. She's like, Gretchen, Lucille. She's so mad. So I just looked at her, and I did the first thing I thought my grandmother would do, which was a cannonball in the pool. Probably not the best choice. So I just started doing cannonballs repeatedly so that Grandma couldn't stay mad at me, because she was laughing so hard. But then she kind of got upset because there was chlorine in the plants. So, I mean, it's okay. We made it through, and she was never completely angry. But that was the only time she really, really got mad at me. And lastly, I mean, we all know that my grandmother was a very vibrant spirit, and secrets weren't kept well. Secrets were Grandma's and everybody's, so they kind of could be spread. So there was this one time my grandma was so proud of herself for keeping her first secret ever. It was when I was 27 is when she kept her first secret ever. If anybody wants to know, I'm 35 now, so 7 years ago. So she always loved and appreciated my relationship with my parents and how close we were. So when I went down for spring break one year, older, single, 27-year lady, whatever, birthday's coming up, who cares? It's just hang out with Grandma. It doesn't matter. So my grandma comes around the corner. We had gone to the Pink Juntique. We had done Shell World because that's what we love to do all together down there in Florida, read our books, whatever. And we start going out to lunch. And we come around the corner and she's acting like she's going to wet her pants. And I'm like, Grandma, what is going on? Like, we're just going to lunch. So we turn around the corner and both of my parents are there. And she is jumping up and down behind me. Grandma is saying, I kept my first secret ever in my life. And that was it. That was it for me. And I was like, Grandma, maybe we could do this more. Like, this is great. I'm so proud of you. So take that as a lesson that, every day you can learn something new and you can still try and strive to be better and with whoever you are. Lastly, I have one prized possession on that shelf, please. That I have a couple prized possessions, but one of the last ones I want to talk about is the book. So my grandma, we talked about organized chaos. And so a couple years ago, she pulls out of a large bag that had sewing and nail polish and probably a hair curler and some pins, lots of other things in it. So she comes and she pulls out this book and she's so excited. And I'm like, okay, Grandma, I can't wait to see what is it? What is it? And I'm going to give this to you, Gretchen. I can't wait for you to show your babies one day. And I can't tell you how much this means to me now, because it's 100% Ruthie. It's 100% my grandmother. So you open the first page and it's put in backwards. So it's a little organized chaos like normal. So you have to kind of like coast in to the book, which is amazingly grandmother. But she has photos in here of me and my grandpa and my first house and all of these amazing memories that she kept and that she did. And she used to tell people, this is my first grandchild. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the start of something. That's amazing. But I am so thankful that she gave me this book that I can now share with my family and continue to go on with my family and share memories of her. The last thing that we are going to do is we are actually continuing living on her memory, and we have adopted her dog, and he has become a very integral part of our family. He is very in love with us and everyone. And he does miss his mom, but he is in a very happy place. We are so thankful that we get to think about her every day. We heard she got a perm this past year. So we think that was influenced by him. But we're so thankful to have him and have her living and breathing with us every day. So thank you for bearing with me through this. I love you, Grandma. Can't wait to see you again. Keep partying on. I love you.
Gretchen, thank you so much. That was awesome. That's exactly what we all needed too, I think. So good. All right, we are going to hand it to Ellie. She's got some things to say too. Ellie, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, I'm gonna go on mute and you take it away, okay?
Okay, so Gretchen talked about Ruthie as a grandma. I'm going to talk about her as a bubby. And like she said, like Gretchen said, Bubby was not vanilla. So every time I talk about her, I need to explain her in depth. She's not just a grandmother. She is a Bubby. She's Ruth Ann. So I'm reading too. So bear with me. So when I explain Bubby to other people, I have to start with the story of how she became a Bubby, how she overheard the term Bubby in an airport and decided right then and there that was what her grandchildren would call her. And no one dared argue. Bubby is the Yiddish term for grandmother. And as we all know, Bubby does not speak Yiddish, nor is she Jewish. She just found the name endearing, much how I find her endearing. When I think of Bubby personally, the first thing that comes to my mind are her hands. She always had beautiful, worn hands that were decorated in gold jewelry that accented her skin perfectly and the same fresh manicure. I loved looking at them and grabbing her hands every time I would give her a hug because she had the strongest grasp that would pull me into a warm, welcoming hug. I looked down at her hands and I would often see my own hands. We share very similar features. I have her calves and legs and feet and her beautiful hands. Teddy and I make fun of each other because we have the exact same hands. We both laugh at the short stubbiness of them, but every time I laugh, I look down at my own and I realize there's a piece of my Bubby in me. Her hands will always be with me. I've learned a lot from Bubby. I knew she didn't like when my skirt was too short because she would stand next to me and silently use her fingers to grab the hem and tug on it slightly. She at Gretchen's wedding, she did exactly that. When I stared in her eyes, she just looked at me and her eyes responded with, "I didn't say anything." I only laughed and rolled my eyes because there's no fighting with her. We could never argue with Bubby about the little things that bothered us. We could only laugh at how ridiculous they were. Just like how she'd always have Fox News on in Key Largo, blasting Tucker Carlson all night, or how she would use the same fork to feed buttons and eat off of it again. Or how when I showed her a picture of me with horrible acne when I was younger, she blurted out, "Holy shit," and started dying laughing while zooming in and out on the phone. I didn't even know she knew how to zoom. Um, she knew what she liked and she knew what she didn't like, and she never needed somebody to change her unless she decided herself it was time for a change. Another thing I learned from Bubby is how important it is to care for other people. She gave and gave and gave, whether it was to her church or to the women who cleaned her house or to us, her family. She was always willing to offer something to somebody. Every time we went to her church in Key Largo, she would fold her check and pass it down the row. She would always talk about Dallas and Debbie and explain what was going on in their lives. I don't know how she did it, but she remembered everything. She knew everything and she cared about everything, even though she couldn't hear anything. Now I know I'm not the only one who got excited when we get a card in the mail written in her elegant, scripty handwriting. The card inside was always cheesy and a tiniest bit of writing, and then her gift was inside. When I was younger, I really didn't understand how much it meant, but last year, when I was paying rent and tuition while barely being able to work, I got the gift and I felt so lucky that she was willing to offer me a sense of relief. The tears welled up in my eyes, and I realized how grateful I was to have someone who gave so much to others. However, the most important lesson I learned from Bubby was about family. It's not a surprise that she has lost a lot of family, and grief works in very mysterious ways. So the people will grieve, so that people will grieve in their own ways. When I heard that Bubby passed, the first thought I had was to light a candle in church. I hope she doesn't hear this, but I hadn't been to church since the last time I saw her in Key Largo. I was in a new city in a new state, and I felt through my grief that going to light a candle would make me feel closer to her. As I was standing by the candle in the church, trying to pretend I knew what I was doing, I lit the end of the wooden stick and tried to remember one of the many prayers I had heard in her church. I stood and stood and stood, and my mind went blank. I couldn't think of a single one. So I thought about the class I took about the Bible. Though I never told anybody this, I took this class for her. Because she loved her church and religion so much, I wanted to gain perspective. I took it because I wanted her to be proud of me for reading her scripture. I'm sure she knows this by now, hopefully. One story that reminds me of Bubby's lessons on family she taught me, ironically, is the story of Ruth. Naomi told Ruth to leave her and find a better life because she couldn't offer Ruth anything else. But Ruth, in protest, said, "Do not press me to leave you or turn back from following you. Where you go, I go." Ruth's family was too important to leave behind, so she followed them regardless of the consequences. She followed because the love she felt trumped the rational thought. When I stood in front of that candle, resisting to light it because I didn't want to say goodbye, I looked at the flame and remembered all the people that loved my Bubby. I remembered all the silly, kooky memories of her. I remember her stories she told casually, like how she went to a nudist colony in her teens. I remember how she would always drink milk with ice during her meals. Then I remembered the story of Ruth and the stories of Ruth Ann, and I realized she gave me my family. And Bubby is my family, and no matter what any of my family goes through, I'll follow them. Whatever demons they face or bad times they fall in, my family will always be the ones I seek. Bubby was a great example of that. She had her issues. We all have our issues. But the people who stay by your side during those low periods of your life are your family. Because whatever rational part of your brain that says leave is conquered by the part that says love and refuses to lose hope. There are people who think about you every day or add pictures to an album because they know you would want to see it, or teach you how to see said album on an iPad, or make your sloppy joes when they miss you, or read the Bible just because you like it. They are your family. And even though Bubby lost some of her family, she has enough of a family left that she will always be remembered for generations. She will be remembered as the woman who went through the worst circumstances possible and came out with loved ones still by her side, as the grandmother to amazing and unique individuals, as the friend to many, many beautiful people for decades, as the lover of novels, as the person who managed to keep a goldfish alive forever. She'll be remembered whenever we see the same blue tones as the door we all stood in front of in Key Largo, whenever we get a whiff of that obsession perfume, whenever we see a crow fly overhead or hear Don't Know Why by Norah Jones. And a piece of her is in each and every one of us, especially when I look at my family. Her eyes are my father's eyes. Her independence is in my brother. Her hands are in my sister's hands. Her love is in each one of them. And for me, I was privileged to get her eyes, her independence, and her hands, and most importantly, her love for others. So, Bubby, thank you for all those gifts, and you will always be a part of me. I hope I will be able to give to others as much as you gave. For now, I'll leave you with this. I will see you again. Next time, let it be in front of that blue door. I'll squeeze your hands, and my hands will be as worn to the same elegance as the last time I saw yours. And I'll give you a long-awaited hug, and you can introduce me to Sarah and Poppy and all the other family I missed. Until we meet again, I promise you, I'll never use a preposition at the end of a sentence, and I'll always set the table the right way, and I'll use the hands you gave me to give and give and give. Until we meet again. I love you forever. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Allie. Allie and Gretty, you guys did such an amazing job. I appreciate it. I love the humor. I love the sentiment and the love. It's someone wrote in the comments, this is what we needed, and it is exactly what we needed. Now, I get to talk about Ruthie as a mom. Thank you guys very much. And Margot, you need to pull up some slides, right? What'd you say? Okay. Yes. Bubby as a mom, actually Ruthie as a mom. Here we go. My mom was an incredible mom. She was extremely proud of her little girls, and showing them off was her favorite. Money was tight in the early days, and the only sneaky spending, which I think the only sneaky spending that she did, was to buy the girls matching outfits at Steccady's in Grand Rapids. She worked as a teacher for a while, but like most moms of her generation, bowed out of the workforce and raised kids and took care of the house. Let me be honest, she loved to entertain the kids and to hell with cleaning the house. She was the worst housekeeper, and she is looking down on me right now, nodding her head in agreement. She used to say that when I would pick up for her, the clean house made her nervous. I never got that. On snow days, it was her absolute favorite. She used to get so excited because all the kids would be home with her and we could have fun the whole day. Her kids were her world: Heidi, Sarah, Molly, and me. She loved each of her kids so much, but we cannot forget baby boy Drake. After Heidi was born, my parents had a boy who soon after he was born passed away. The name he was given was simply baby boy Drake. I grew up visiting a small grave in the cemetery with his name on it, and I didn't understand the importance of it until one day I came home and both my parents were holding hands and crying. When they saw me, they were not embarrassed or apologetic. They just told me that today is baby boy's birthday, and they loved them, which made him real to me. After Ruthie's ashes, we're ready to pick up. I can show you. I can show everyone. These are Ruthie's ashes. We have big plans for them, but for now, they're in her special urn. Sorry to break into this. I needed a second to get my act together too. After Ruthie's ashes were ready to pick up, I flew to Florida to pack her up and drive her home to Michigan. It was our time, and that's what we did. Plus, I needed to be with her. Day one of driving was anger and tears, but midway through day two, a huge smile grew on my face, and I couldn't get rid of it. I realized that Ruthie was with baby boy Drake for only the second time ever. They'll never be separated again. That made me very happy. The very same goes for Sarah. When she died, Ruthie was in pain for years. She hid it as to not make others uneasy. Going through her things, I found a photo album of just Sarah. I know she would pull it out from time to time and think about her and dream about seeing her again. All three of them are together now, and I'm positive that there's pure love and laughter. All kids get different parents. The mom that Heidi had was probably different than the mom that I had, just because people change as time goes on. For me, Ruthie was a gentle teacher. She, of course, would tell me the things that I needed to do, but she would quietly show me some of the important things in life that I needed to think about. Eat healthy, take walks, be thrifty with your money, say your prayers, write thank you notes, bring hostess gifts, and always, always tell people that you love them. That last one is gold. The very last thing I ever heard from Ruthie was, I love you. The very last thing she ever heard from me was, I love you. I tell Margot and my kids I love them almost too much. They tell each other and all of their friends that they love them. That's because of Ruthie. She was great, but she was not perfect. Remember, I said I wanted this thing to be perfect. It's because I love her and I want everything to be right for her, but that's silly and that's really my issue. We are all imperfect. We're human and we trip and we get back up, and Ruthie was imperfect, but she was a great, great lady. I like to call her perfectly imperfect. She was real and had real life ups and downs. She always got back up with a smile. I've grown impatient with those who look for perfection, and especially those who thought Ruthie should be more perfect. She was perfectly imperfect, and for that reason, that was her last great lesson to me. We all need to learn from her and love your imperfect self. Say I love you to others, thank God for his gifts, and try to make people feel lighter with a laugh. Now some mom sense of humor. I loved her laugh, and I loved to make her laugh, and she loved to make me laugh. In middle school, standing outside, waiting forever for her to pick me up, she was always late. And she knew it made me mad. With several kids watching, she loved to do this. She would pull up to me right when I could grab the car door, and then she would back up 10 feet. Furious, I would walk back 10 feet, reach for the car door, and she would pull up 10 feet. She would do this 3 or 4 times until I would literally break down laughing. And then she allowed me to open the door. That was Ruthie's humor to an angsty middle schooler, and I loved her for that. And now we're actually going to hear from Ruthie. I knew that we were going to have a little tech problem, everyone. Nothing's perfect. No.
Okay.
Now I can.
Okay, now we have feedback. So I think you have to I think you have to mute because I'll play.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this right. Hold on 1 second. We got to cue it up to the exact right spot. 24:52. I hope you guys can hear this. Okay.
Key Largo, we are going to sign off and eat our appetizers.
I have to tell you something funny. My daughter tells this Stevie is into elder abuse. And Heidi doesn't think I should have to be on television.
So I don't know if elder abuse is really the term we should
I'm
be
having
using.
fun.
I think I think of elder abuse as something
knocking me down.
meaner than this. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
All right, now I can mute again. We're live! Woo! We are live.
So you guys, those videos we will absolutely cherish. We do this silly cooking show as a family, and just by chance we had Bubby on teaching us her recipes twice. We'll post those in our Facebook group just so you can see her talking. They're so funny. Her recipes are awesome, but we love it. So thank you all for joining us and contributing to the celebration of Ruthie. Whatever you called her, Ruthie, Ruthann, Mom, Bubby, Ruther, Aunt Ruth, I want you to know that she loves you. And we will all be together again someday, I promise. Until then, please live your life like Ruthie did. Don't take yourself too seriously. Read lots of books and make everyone around you feel good. On this big birthday, we have a birthday present option that we'd like to offer. She loved this little church in the Keys, Emmanuel Lutheran. She attended it for almost 30 years. It's a tiny church with a tiny congregation and a tiny budget.
He's teeny.
So what we did, we set up a GoFundMe page. So any donation you make will go to her church in her honor, and we would absolutely love it if you would help us help her support this little church. Also, this Facebook group has become a really special place for Heidi and Jeff and Margot and me and all the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Please keep adding pictures and telling stories. Most of all, please keep remembering Ruthie. She made the world a better place, one person at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love you all, and I appreciate you for being here. And that's a wrap. So thank you. Happy birthday to Ruthie. God bless you all.